We are live here on Plus One EXP's Roll for Content channel. My name is Tony Vicinda, and I'm Chief Alchemist here at Plus One EXP. We're a weird little brand that multi-classes in tabletop game design, beard and skincare alchemy, and the Bardic College of Content Creation. Our hope and desire is to help amazing designers find great players who love their games, and help amazing players find great designers whose games they can love. We do that in a lot of different ways. One of my favorites, though, is sitting down and just talking with the designers of those games as part of our Prestige class series. Today we have with us two designers of a project that is currently live and funding on Kickstarter. That's Anna and Brian. Let's start with Anna. Anna, why don't you tell people who you are, what you do, and where they can find you online?
Hi. I create solo RPGs like Apothecaria and now the fantastic sequel Apawthecaria. I also create map drawing games, and I'm about to release a scratch and journal RPG.
Ooh.
You can find my stuff at blackwellwriter.com and blackwellwriter.itch.io.
I think we're gonna have to pause right there for a second and just say, what is what did you call it? A scratch and write?
Scratch and journal.
Scratch and journal. Tell us more.
So it's at its core, it is a journaling RPG, but it's played on an A3 scratch poster. And it's called The Dig.
Oh,
so every day you dig, or you scratch off one of the boxes to reveal fossils and a prompt underneath.
I love this. I can't wait. I can't wait to hear more. We'll talk about that some more in a little bit. But let's hear from Brian. Brian, tell people who you are, what you do, where they can find you online.
Hi, I'm Brian. I use he, him pronouns. I run Dungeons on a Dime, which is a entry-level publishing imprint that makes tabletop role-playing games. I run Beast Fables on YouTube, streaming every Thursday. I made games like Vice and Virtue, Adventures on a Dime, which was nominated for an Emmy. You can find me at Dungeons on a Dime everywhere, really. Bit of a mouthful.
And I just saw you get excited about, was that about the Emmy nomination?
He's very humble. He's never mentioned as any nomination.
Oh, I was retweeting it like in like the voting period. I was like, hey, I know like I'm against two people. I didn't win. I was against like two huge companies. I think it was like Alien. It was for best free game, and it was like Alien: The Apocalypse, and then Paizo, I think, or someone huge.
Right.
So I was like, I'm not winning, but
yeah, but even be up
I was
against
nominated.
Right.
Felt
Yeah.
very special.
Just as good
Better
as
than I
both.
got.
You probably only came in a vote or two behind the winner too. That's the That's
I like to think that I'm joint third with everyone else, so we all get a bronze medal, even though I don't give those out.
Yeah. We'll hold a post Ennies this year where we just give bronze medals to everyone who didn't win.
We can call it pennies.
Pennies. Awesome. Cameron's watching over on YouTube, says, so excited for this. Two of my favorite zine quests coming together.
Thank you. Thank you.
Before we kind of dive into a little bit about each of you, your design background, I know we've had Anna on before to talk about solo RPGs, but this is Brian's first time. I want to get to know each of you a little bit better. Tell folks a little bit about Apothecaria.
Do you want to field this, or shall I?
Yeah, I'll go for it. So Apothecaria is, as Anna said, the wonderfully punderful sort of potion-making adventuring game. It's a combination of two original Zine Quest games. The setting of Scurry, which is set in Scotland in a post-human future where it follows little animals on daring adventures. And it combines the potion-making mechanics of Apothecaria, which is spelt regularly and normally, where you are an apprentice taking over for a witch who has gone mysteriously missing as you help the local residents of your village of High Rannoch create potions and forage for reagents. Together they merge into Apawthecaria, a poultice pounder adventure, where you roleplay as different beasts as they travel around the Scottish Highlands, as we know them, the bristly woods, and make remedies for animals and go on grand journeys through the changing seasons.
I love it. It's absolutely gorgeous. I can't wait to talk more about it, but let's get to kind of know each of you a little bit first. Brian, let's start with you. What kind of got you into RPGs generally, but also tell me a little bit about what started drawing your eye over to doing some design work?
So, I mean, long story short, I was in a really nerdy hobby from the age of 10. I was a reenactor, historical reenactment. And my parents thought, oh, that's too nerdy. So they want me getting into something a bit more mainstream. They had me playing role-playing games with the kids that they, the kids of other people they were reenacting with, so I got to socialize.
I love that
and
your
from a very
parents
young
thought
age,
that was cooler.
they were like, no, reenacting is too uncool. Like being in a field, getting muddy and saying ye old English for 2 weeks every summer in the rain
Wow.
it's too niche. But Dungeons and Dragons, perfectly fine. So they had me socialize from a young age. I've been playing role-playing games, and I've been using it as an autistic person as a way of developing my social skills and making new friends, really. So it's always been very close to who I am as a person. And when I studied illustration at university and I was, writing and designing on the side, it just became a natural project to work on. I couldn't find work coming out of uni, and I started Dungeons on a Dime to generate, briefs myself, and it's turned into a full-time job.
That's awesome. So if somebody told me in the United States they were a reenactor, I would immediately jump to Civil War being the type of reenacting that they were doing.
Yeah.
In the area of the world in which you lived, what were you reenacting?
So I was reenacting like the equivalent, which was Tudor England.
Okay.
So that's King Henry the Eighth and his 6 wives, and that general 100 years period. At the time, it was on the school curriculum, mandatory for primary school, so everyone studied it in England. So Tudors was like a really safe subject, and people it sort of looks kind of not Regency, but it's the public equivalent of high fantasy. People go, "Oh, it's medieval," and they get it. So it's fun. I feel like they do a lot of World War II stuff now because that's on the curriculum, or at least the old reenacting groups I used to be in.
That's awesome. Now in the U.S., that is I'm going to ask a lot of questions about reenacting right now. In the U.S., that's you shoot at each other, and then some people tell you who falls down and other stuff like that. Is it like that, but swords? I'm just curious.
So there is. My sister is a blacksmith, casual, just dropping that in there. She does full armor combat. So that's like HEMA, that's you get up in plate mail and you beat each other until one side doesn't get up. So that's one kind of reenactment. It's not historical in the sense of reenacting a battle, but it is historical in the fact that you're using swords and maces and plate mail and stuff. Then you have recreational reenactments. So the idea is you're trying to recreate the past. Some people use it as a form of academic study, which is what I was doing, i.e. I was a kid running around with a stick screaming, which is what kids did back then most of the time, and my parents were running a Tudor farm with a bunch of other people. So someone was cutting down hay with a scythe, and someone was making bread by hand, and all these various things to recreate a living environment. And there are also World War II reenactors who shoot each other and die and do battles and stuff.
That's cool. No, I love it. I just like I said, it's something that I feel like there's enough of a cultural touchstone here in the U.S. on that because of the amount of Civil War reenactors that exist, or at least a mental picture. But I don't know that we ever think about that happening anywhere else in the world because we're Americans and horrible, and assume that it's only our history matters. But I love that.
So no, in our collective defense, my mum is American. She's from Pennsylvania, and she got my dad into reenactment by coming over here and being like, "I'm doing Tudors. If I'm coming to England, we're doing the Tudors. Where else am I going to get to do this?" So yeah, they started out with Star Trek conventions and then graduated logically to Tudor period reenactment.
That's amazing. What part of Pennsylvania?
I think Philadelphia, where the big forests were.
I'm in Philly, so that's why I was asked. Just curious. My wife's from Pittsburgh, and so, but that's awesome. So Anna, you didn't do reenactment as an elementary school student. Is that what I'm picking up?
Nope, we certainly did not have reenactment as part of our curriculum, but we didn't really have much anyway. But I have done reenactment. I did Scottish traditional fighting reenactment, which is all dress yourself up in woad and tartan and smack each other with daggers and swords.
That's awesome. I love it.
Ours was a lot more combat focused.
It is also interesting parents' proclivities on what is too nerdy. Like when I started getting my kids into D&D, they were like, "I don't know, is this too nerdy?" And I was like, "Oh, it's not like it's LARPing," which was totally a joke. If my kids want to LARP, that's great. If they don't want to LARP, that's great. If they don't want to play Dungeons and Dragons, that's fine. If they do want to, that's great. And by Dungeons and Dragons, I mean all role-playing games. but it was really interesting. They like latched onto that, and when I said something about LARPing a little while ago, and they were like, "Isn't that like the nerdiest thing?" And I was like, "No, not. I mean, not actually. I'm sure there are nerdier things, and it's just a scale of whatever the thing is that you're like, I wouldn't do that. Is always so funny to see how other people kind of interpret that. So it's awesome to hear. But that's great to hear. Like, I'm super excited about it. Anna, tell people a little bit about what got you started playing and what got you into designing.
Yeah, well, I started playing, I think when I was about 12, because I had older friends who had played Dungeons and Dragons, and they were like, "Oh, you need to try this game." And so my first introduction was with a D6 and a basic idea of what role playing was, thanks to like the Baldur's Gate and Neverwinter Nights games. And we played that every week, eventually moving on to AD&D Second Edition, which is a terrible leap to make from that initial story game thing, onto Fourth Edition. And then by the time I was playing 4th edition D&D, I was in college for computer games design. And I was like, I can make something better. Because 4th edition was not scratching the itches I wanted.
And when you thought I can make something better, what was kind of that first foray into design?
So that was Those Who Play. That was my first role-playing game system, and it's the one that my group refused to move on from. No matter how much I look at it and think this is broken, we can do better. It's like, no, we know this one. We're staying with it.
Love it. That's awesome. Let's talk about each of the projects that kind of went into this kind of piece by piece. We'll kind of stick with you, Anna. Tell people a little bit about Apothecaria. I know we had you on. You and I talked about a bunch of solo RPGs that were out and talked about Apothecaria. If somebody wants to go back and watch that video, you can find it over on our YouTube channel. There's links down below. But tell us a little bit about Apothecaria and that solo game and kind of what led into that for the last Zine Quest.
So Apothecaria, I wanted to do something that was very much the opposite of Delve, my first Zine Quest game, which was very detailed, very difficult. I wanted to do something that would be easier. It'd be a nice, relaxing experience that you could sit down for an evening every now and then and just tell a story to yourself in a way that I sort of felt that other journaling RPGs didn't do. I wanted to make something that was happy, but that didn't shy away from the kind of darker realities of death and disease. And yeah, so Apothecaria, I've tried to make it as simple and as accessible as possible. All you need is like a journal, some playing cards, and design.
And you also did some really phenomenal like paper art for that also too that I absolutely love. I'm actually trying to see if I can hop over and grab a picture of that real quick because it was absolutely
the papercraft stuff.
Yeah.
That was by, oh no, I've forgotten their name. Is it Paper Toys? Just real quick checking. I have forgotten their name, but I will try and get them.
Well, I'll scroll down. I'm going to scroll through the page real quick so people can see it.
I forget my name every day.
Yeah. Mainly because like we talked about this before, but I just love the opening image for Apothecaria. Just the splash image for it has so many great small details in it that pull you into what the world is intended to feel like. I absolutely love the game. It's absolutely gorgeous. Even as we were just the other day, like somebody found your interview that we did a couple weeks ago. It's like, oh my gosh, I love Apothecaria. I sleep with it like by my bed every night. Somebody said the same thing today, and I was like, oh, I'm interviewing Anna with Brian about their new game. Come hang out and watch that, or watch it after the fact. But absolutely gorgeous game. Did a tremendous job during the last Zine Quest, and I am scrolling down to the papercraft stuff right now, and just so people can see it
right here.
Awesome. You want to move that a little bit more to the center. There we go. Yeah.
That's the Moon Crystal.
Gorgeous.
Purifying potions.
Yeah. So,
the Mimic.
Yeah. It's such a cool concept and such a great like thing you can include in a game that gave it a little bit more of a table presence and experience. And I absolutely love when people do a lot of those types of pieces. And so huge fan. If you haven't checked out Apothecaria, please go do. I'll drop a link to that project also too, because it's up on itch right now. Is that right? Mm-hmm. People want to find it. Is that the best place to go?
blackwellwriter.com for physical copies.
There you go. But no, that's awesome. And so that's one half of kind of what went into Apothecaria. Brian, tell us a little bit about Scurry.
So Scurry starts earlier than Zine Quest 3. I started a partnership with Roll20 to showcase my Adventures on a Dime system when I first released it. And every week I was playing a game called Beast Fables set in the Bristly Woods in Scotland with my friends. And we kept coming up with a problem. Occasionally, someone wouldn't be free. They had to go, I don't know, like walk their fish or, feed their dog or something. And we would have 2 players, but the person who was missing was key to the scene. And we were like, right, okay, we're going to do an interlude, or we're going to do like a short story or whatever, and then we'll weave back in when everyone's available. But the short stories we kept doing kept like going on for like 4 or 5 sessions because they were so fun. And I wanted a game that was Beast Fables, that was specifically the quick one-shot session energy that I wanted, that was only going to be 1 session, that it had to end in 1 session. Everyone died at the end or whatever. Like, it needed to be only 1 session long so that I could just play it and move on. And Scurry was born. Scurry is a game where all of the mechanics are about essentially the entire plot moving and speeding up as you go. Everyone shares a single die, which starts as a d12. You roll it, and if you get 4 or higher on any kind of challenge or problem, you succeed. However, anytime something goes wrong or inconveniences the whole or anyone in the group, you start marking down on a clock. Eventually, the die starts to shrink in size from a d10 to a d8 to a d6 to a d4. Success gets harder and harder, and every time you fail, the clock starts to tick faster. Eventually, this means that over the period of 2 or 3 hours when you're playing a session, unless your players are extremely crafty and intelligent with how they're using their characters, the die may shrink down to a d6 or a d4 or even shrink entirely, and the Scurry immediately ends. I'm very proud of this little shrinking intense system. I funded it during Zine Quest 3 last year, or this year. Oh god, time. Yeah,
time, right?
But I funded it. It was beautiful. It's filled with art from all of the players from the original stream that's still going, and I'm just really proud of it as a project. It's probably the most beautiful book that I have designed to date.
Yeah. It also has Scurry got a couple bits of high praise from me during Zine Quest 3. I believe I said these all on stream at some point in time, but I talked about a lot of games during Zine Quest 3. It had 2 things that stood out. One, the video. Your execution on the video hit like all the moments where you start to want to turn away, like or click off the video. You had a tonal shift that clicked people back into watching more and getting more information, which is an absolute mastery. I think yours is one of the few videos we watched, because I always give a video a minute. And it's like, we're going to watch the first minute. That's it whenever I'm doing back request. And we watched, I think, all of your video. If not, we watched 3/4 of it, because you would hit these really great shifts right at that 60-second mark, or that like 59-second. You would shift to something else to draw the viewers back in. It was very, very well done. The other thing that I commented on it, it has absolutely, out of any funding project I've seen, the best pie chart breaking down where the different fees are going that have popped up on screen right now next to all of our faces. I don't know that it's the most readable whatever, but it is the best and most beautiful one. And the breakdown,
it's my opinion,
is right
it's my
below.
opinion of like these Kickstarters, because they always have like all of this information, but like no one really minds about the information of like the actual percentages. They just go, oh, it's pretty. And so I thought, I can do one of those. And then I thought, well, if a bunch of animals were going to be funding this is what they'd fund it with. They wouldn't have money. They'd have like sunflower seeds or something. And I just felt it helped. It made it cute. This is the energy of Beast Fables.
Yeah, I like I said, I love it. It's something I commented on when I was talking about it. There's the actual breakdown right below, but it was just such a smart and clever way to, again, draw people back in and say, hey, like we like hey, if you've disconnected, if you're not thinking, because a pie chart is like something I'm just gonna glaze past it. I'm not gonna look at it. I'm not gonna deconstruct it. It made me stop and look and think about, what is this thing and what am I backing and what am I looking at. You also included something very interesting in Scurry on the Kickstarter also too. It wasn't papercraft, it was scented candles. Tell us about the Scent of Adventures.
So that was a deluxe element. I still am exploring ways that you can make a role-playing game more inviting over long distances and more immersive. So the idea with the scented candles, because it was 2021, we were looking at another year of lockdown at that point. I thought, what's something that you can send to someone or that you can share that can be an experience that everyone can enjoy that you don't have to be present for. I have friends who are immunocompromised, and so they can't meet up. And if they get mail, they have to leave it for a couple of days to make sure that, there's no viruses on there now. Now that they're vaccinated, it's all safe. But at the time, it was still a big concern. So with the scented candles, my boyfriend Will, who is Willowix, makes scented candles, and we kind of came up with this idea together, but it was that we would have individual custom scents for each adventure, and the candles themselves would be a visual timer for the actual game, because each session is meant to be about 2 hours long. A tea light candle has a burn time of about 2 hours. You put that down, you light it, you have the sensory, the look of the actual candle, the colors, the smell of it, of being in this location, because there's one adventure is in sort of like underground library, one is in a kind of a wet wintry forest, and one's atop a mountain, so they're really distinct kind of smells. And the idea is that the players are immediately invested, but they also have a visual timer of how far the candle's burnt and how much wax is left, is how long they have left in the adventure. So everyone, without having to talk to each other or keep an eye on the clock, has this sort of like natural pacing to the story that's going on.
I love that. I mean, like I said, so many smart things, like so amazing, like just very, very cool things. And those Zine Quest projects, Cameron actually mentioned it's by that they keep Apothecaria by their bed also. And so you got a lot of people out there who are big fans. And I also know, like, I've seen people who have gotten their copy of Scurry and got the candles also too, and rave about both of them. It's an absolutely gorgeous book. The layout on it's phenomenal. It's absolutely tremendous. So like I said, when Anna reached out about having y'all on to talk about this new project, there was a fusion of these things. I loved that idea. So tell me a little bit about how this idea of let's take these two games and get your peanut butter and my jelly, like how did y'all get to that point? Or your chocolate and my peanut butter, or your jelly and my almond butter. I don't know what they do in the UK. Tell me a little bit about how y'all decided to team up on this project and where that conversation started.
Definitely.
And I think it was you who approached me first.
Yep,
yeah,
it was. Yeah. So I backed Scurry, and when it arrived, and I realized fully, it's like, wait a minute, Brian's just over in Edinburgh. That's one city over, really. Like, you've got Glasgow on one coast and you get Edinburgh on the other. There's a train line right between us. And I was like, hey, we should collaborate, because I've got this great pun, and this pun needs to be told. So I just sent him a message saying about how, like, I love this game, and how I have this pun, and I really want to work together. And please, very please, at least let me work on it, and like take your setting. And Brian was like, even better, let's collaborate, let's work on it, and let's do something really, really cool.
Awesome.
It was a very natural progression, because you said that pun to me, and immediately in my head I was like, oh, well, I played Apothecaria as well at that point. And you were kind of just in my peripheral, in the same way that a lot of indie creators are sort of like, oh, I know of them and I played the game and that's cool. But it was so cool you were reaching out. And I was like, oh, all witches have familiars. It would be hilarious if you're playing like a frog and your actual familiar is a badger and your familiar is bigger than you, and it's just your mate, Glenn, who will go around and pick mushrooms with you. And as opposed to being like this magical thing, they're just sort of like someone who's long suffering and walking along with you. And it's just all of the concepts that we've been thinking about this game came out of literally that one pun, and it's just been a great it's match made in heaven, really.
That's awesome. And there's a quick start, by the way, if anybody's out there watching right now wants to check this out, you can actually go check it out. I'll pop up the page. There's a quick start that you can link to from the Kickstarter that'll walk you through kind of how to start playing this and checking it out until you get your hands on the full version. And I would highly encourage people to do both of those things, to check it out and get your hands on the full version. So you kind of had this the conversation flowed very easily. It was easy to step into. You'd played each other's games. Tell us kind of about, as you went through, how did you kind of keep both of the different flavors of those intact? Was it like, hey, we just want to take kind of the root pieces of Apothecaria and then build the Scurry environment and flavor onto it, or were there other considerations that came up?
I can start with this one.
Yeah.
It was we first established in like the first half hour of just like rapidly DMing each other that these two concepts would work together, and then we had that same thought process of like, okay, how do we make this distinguished so that it honors both origins, but it's not just a mush. And it was the idea of traveling that really brought it together. Apothecaria is a static game. You are an apprentice in a witch's hut and you're helping your specific local community. Whereas the Bristly Woods is set out across lots of different areas and terrains, and it's all about the different guilds, cultures, cities. And what we wanted to do to showcase the Bristly Woods, the setting, and to have this wonderful journaling rule was to have essentially a road trip adventure where you are an apothecary going around making remedies for people. And as you travel around, you're sort of getting your bread and butter and a room for the night as you help people with their local ails on a larger journey that spans each different season.
I love it. I just popped the travel rules up to us so people can get a little bit of a sense of that also too. But I love that idea. Like, I also love it because it is one of the things that everybody in their like local home game is always like, I wish there was more actual functional travel processes for why we're going around doing things. It's something that I think a lot as far as travelogue games and other pieces like that. So to see a game that's diving into that specifically and kind of looking at that on a solo level, I absolutely love. And so it's also it's inspired by an actual physical place, right? It's not like I mean it's like the Bristly Woods and other pieces it worked in, but it's actually like there's a physical place, right? Yeah. Tell me about that, because it's a place that both of you like have an affinity for, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Loch Lomond in the Trossachs area is it's just north of Glasgow where I live, and it's this amazingly massive loch, which is a lake to Americans, and basically there's all these islands on it. We go up, me and my partner and friends, every summer whenever the weather's good, so, like 12 degrees centigrade, Celsius even, and we go paddleboarding, we go snorkeling, because in Scotland, if the sun's out, your clothes are off, regardless of how cold it actually is. So we go up there, we go hill walking, because after a certain age in Scotland, you have to start climbing all the hills for no other reason than to get to the top, even though it's pouring rain most of the time. But it's a beautiful place. I think it's like one of our big tourist draws for people who like come here to see the nature.
Awesome. Yeah, no, like I said, I love the kind of the grounded reality of a lot of that. It's an absolutely kind of like gorgeous game, but like tell me a little bit about the actual play of it. Like if somebody gets this, what can they kind of expect in the process? They're this traveling apothecary, but what does that kind of functionally look like in this solo RPG experience?
So as a player, you are playing different beasts as part of a guild called the Poultice Pounders. They are a very little known guild when you start the game, and your goal is to build their reputation traveling on bigger journeys around the woods. You can get your own motivations for each large journey that you do each season. So it might be that you're traveling to help a specifically injured beast. It might be that you are meeting with another member of a guild, and that's why you need to travel halfway across the woods. But along the way, you're helping people out, you're kind of building community spirit, you're foraging for rare reagents and building your own, supplies, stock throughout this process. You can play as different characters, but the guild reputation stays consistent across all of your playthroughs to represent your actions as a community coming together to sort of, a rising tide shifts all boats. As your reputation increases, you get to deal with more advanced ailments, you get access to new events, and the beasts of the woods will respect you and trust you more than they did before.
That's awesome. Does that mean theoretically that if a bunch of people wanted to play together by themselves, that you could be like, we're a guild and we're each going to play our things, but we're going to kind of put into the common space? Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
Have you had anybody take that on yet or give that a try?
We haven't had much alpha playtesting yet because we're still at the very early days of design.
Yeah.
So it's mostly been us going through on our own.
No, I love that idea. And like I said, I'm a big fan of like connected solo experiences. Like Gian talks a lot about connected path stuff, which is a lot of that's, hey, you're doing this by yourself, but it might impact this larger world. And here's some ways that those pieces can fit together. I love when something is like, hey, I can do this entirely solo by myself. But also if I have a group of friends who all want to play this, we could play by ourselves in community between our games and check in every week on what's happened or how things are going. The art's absolutely gorgeous in the book, though. Also, too. So, Brian, this is all you, correct?
Mostly me. There might be a couple bits in there from other artists like Fraser, but the majority, like this style, is me.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I feel like
amazing,
Anna and I
delightful.
have both experienced when you do your first Kickstarter, you overpromise all of your stretch goals that like, oh, you know, we've got extra £500, we're going to buy everyone a car. Like, we've done that. So now we've got for our stretch goals this time much more just a wish list of things we want to do that we're going to assess at the end of the Kickstarter. But one of the goals that we do have is both multiplayer modes that multiple people can sit and play a game together at the same time, sort of like a GM-less experience. But also, as you said, like that multiplayer, lots of people playing a solo game and contributing to the same guild reputation pool and sort of like sharing their experiences and events.
And also Wallaby Island, which is my top of my wish list.
Tell me a little bit about Wallaby Island.
There's an island in Loch Lomond called Inchcannochan. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Might not be.
That sounds really legit, so go with
it.
it.
Yeah, it sounds close. And basically, some Glasgow women in, I think, like the 1920s put a bunch of wallabies on the island, and they've been there ever since, much to the annoyance of some conservationist groups. But you can paddle over, and you can camp on the island. You're not allowed to start any fires, but you can camp there. And it's amazing just going out at night with your headlamp on and just seeing wallabies just out in the woods.
Awesome. And look at this amazing over on the Kickstarter page, anybody who's watching right now, this amazing line chart, percentage chart of all the different things the money is going to get spent on, just like I mentioned before on the other one. That's amazing. There have been a couple of lakes we've lived near that have had islands in the middle of them, and we've always wanted to go out and explore them, and anytime we do, it ends up being not really an island so much as trees that are coming out of the water and a bunch of mud. But I'm always obsessed with paddling out to the place in the middle of the lake and figuring out what's on there, and I don't know that I would have ever expected wallabies to be the answer for that. So but I love this idea of like, hey, after we're done, depending on how far we do, here are some things we would like to take into account, or attempt to make happen. I know you mentioned like sometimes people overpromise on their Kickstarters, and it's a stress and it's a stretch, and it's how we're going to get all this done. But tell me a little bit more about that decision-making process and kind of what are some of the things that, like, Anna, you just said my top number one for me, Wallaby Island. Brian, what are some of the things that you would love to see y'all like that are high priority for you, and what it's kind of going to look like as y'all dive into each of that? I'm not looking for any like hard or fast commitments. Just I think it's a really cool process. I think that more creators should consider. I might just be able to do more with the game, and here are some of the things I'm thinking about doing. If you give me more money, I can do more of these things. I think that's a way more human and generous process for yourself and honest for others, because sometimes a stretch goal doesn't work out, and then you're like, oh crap, what do I do? And I'd love to hear more about that thought process.
So for assurance, all of the things that Anna and I, because it's been a very collaborative process, all the things that Anna and I believe are core and necessary to the experience are in the book and in the campaign. And then everything that we've got on our wish list are things that would make it cooler but aren't necessary. And that was a really intuitive process. We knew what was the core and what was extra that was fancy. So for example, something in our wish list is having events that are both day and night. So currently we just have an encounter list for different locations, different regions you travel into. But it'd be cool to sort of have like a alternating you do a roll on the day table, and next time you travel, you will do a roll on the night table. And that's twice as much content, and you need to print on paper and edit that. And that has costs. But it would be cool. So a lot of the stuff on our list is, what if we had the money to ... Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah.
And any thoughts from you on that?
I mean, much the same. Like the day and night thing's actually something I have planned for Apothecaria, my one. And yeah, the whole promising too much of stretch goals is something that nearly killed me with Delph. I had to make 3 games for, I think, £7.
Yeah.
In total.
Well, we just we have a stretch goal for Repugnant that we're finishing up right now, and everyone got it. Like everyone ended up either purchasing. I think there were like 3 people who didn't, and so it was like, do we really need to print this as a separate pamphlet, or should we just put it in the book? Because everyone who backed it got it, right? And it's one less thing to print, and we can just change the formatting, and it'll be significantly cheaper. And yeah, 3 people are getting it for free, but like, should that make anyone upset? No. Will it maybe make some people upset? We'll see. But it is like some of those things that come up, and having that flexibility after the fact, I think is just incredibly helpful to say, yeah, we don't know. We know we want to do these things. We're going to explore the best way to do it based on the funds we end up with, the time we have, and everything else to keep the project on track. I love that. So we talked a little bit about each of the fun things that you all have included in your past 2 Kickstarters. We talked a little about stretch goals. So what are some of the fun extra things that people can expect in this Kickstarter? Because there are some. It's not just the book. There's some other amazing like little pieces that y'all have added in that people can get at higher levels of pledging.
Yes,
what are some of the
postcards and
exciting
the
things y'all have
stickers.
put in?
Tell them about the postcards and the stickers.
So we already have some art commissioned. If you get the deluxe tier, and you will be able to get these individually through Back a Kit once the campaign's finished as well. But the deluxe tier has a nice deal bundle where you get 5 postcards currently. One of the stretch goals is to do more postcards with more locations, but each of them is from one of the 5 main regions of the game. So you've got bog, loch, you've got forest, meadow, and mountain. Which is really fantastic. There is a pin badge designed by Ver, who's one of the illustrators of the book, and it is this mouse in a mortar and pestle, and it's going to have a proper backing card, so the mouse is like part of this big, chaotic, alchemical scene. Every book is going to come with a functional world map. So in Scurry, I actually have it right here. In Scurry, it came with like a map of the Bristly Woods, but the version that will be coming with this game is going to be with all of the locations you can travel on. So you can literally move along on the map, and you can, as encounters require, you can scribble out locations, add new ones in, create new paths, and really customize this game to make it your own. It will also come with a sheet of stamps. So these are stamps designed by Letty Wilson, and they are as if they're like to scale sticker stamps of what the animals would have been using for their mail system, which is just a little cute extra. So you can put those on the postcards as well. And do we have anything else? Postcards, stickers, pin badge, map.
Copies of Scurry and Apothecaria and Vice and Virtue.
Yes, there are bundles as well for our previous stuff as well. So if you have missed out on Scurry and our other releases, then you can dive in and get them super cheap.
Awesome. And at super high levels, you can also get some custom art done, custom character stuff, or your own custom guild crest made, which is all very cool. Like I said, I love those kind of things. I love when the ability to like say, hey, I want to be in this system or touch this in a very unique way. And I think those are some absolutely fun ones to add in. Again, that's all going to take up someone's time and energy, but they're just incredibly fun things to be able to work into the creation of a game and game world also too. So I'm thrilled. So y'all are only like 4 days in at this point in time, 4 or 5 days in, correct? So you've gotten through that initial flash funding. You're funded. Congratulations on that. You've got 16 more days to go on the whole project. I'm super excited to see what comes of this. If you're out there watching right now, you have any questions you want us to ask, please let us know. But I would love to hear from each of you. So, this is what's on your plate right now. You're focused on this. Anna, you mentioned coming up, you've got this other scratch and journal game that you've got planned out. Brian, what's next for you? I know that's always the weirdest question to ask people when they're in the middle of funding, but most game designers I know are like, one of these 3 things.
You're always like, there's always like 5 different irons in the fire, and you're just waiting to see which one sizzles. Yeah. My next big project is called Carved in Stone. I will have much more to share about that. I'm currently working on the proof of concept document right now, but it is a 7th century Scottish setting, made in partnership with Glasgow University, their archaeology department, all of their PhD archaeologists and postdocs, and also with the Society of Antiquaries Scotland, who essentially do a lot of heritage outreach and are all about the presentation of Scotland's past and making sure that it can link to societies today. The entire book itself is laid out like a visual encyclopedia, so it's very graphic, and it's got layers of information so that all ages can flip through. And whether you're 10 and just want to look at some cool pictures of the Picts, or if you are, our age and you want to play an entire game as Picts in Scotland in the 7th century, it will have everything ready for you, including a showcase adventure where you get to go around the north of Scotland and explore all the things covered in the setting guide, as well as a second edition version of Adventures in a Dime with improved rules.
Awesome, love it. My other question is: are the candles cross system compatible? Can you smell those candles while playing Apothecaria also?
Unfortunately not. The candles actually turn off. They've got a DRM on the inside. So if you go to a different game system, they
shut down right away.
No, the candles, you can smell them anytime you want. I have some on my desk. They're just a nice little refresher, even if you're not burning them. And you don't need the candles to play Scurry. It's just a nice extra. But we will be having refills on the DOAD store, as well as some new flavors, hopefully soon, maybe, with other adventures tied to them.
Love that. As somebody who makes custom scented beard balm and put a custom scented beard balm in my last game project, I'm a huge fan of here's a random thing that we're going to put in this that you should 100% be excited about, that just smells good or draws people into the world in a different way, or does something
memorable
fun.
It's tactile.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah. And so our friend Ratty up in Canada says Beast Fables should get a custom card deck at some point in time. That's what they would love to see. Are there thoughts on that?
We Anna, go ahead, Anna. I think you should take this one.
We're talking about it, and we're trying to work something out. I'm currently talking to Joku Playing Cards in Italy, who saw Apothecaria, my one, thanks to a Twitter post by a fan who was using their playing cards to play Apothecaria, and they were like, hey, we would love to chat. So I'm expecting a couple of decks through from them, and we'll be discussing that for Apothecaria as well, and maybe some future projects.
Love it. And then Cameron over on YouTube wants to know, what are your favorite non-furry critters, by which I'm assuming meaning without fur and not, I guess, whatever else that could mean. So do you have a favorite critter that is not a furred critter?
Round here, jackdaws.
Jackdaws.
Jackdaws are corvids. They have little silvery necks and really like bright blue eyes. And the way they run around with their little friends, hopping on the grass and cawing wildly. They're great.
Brian, how about you? Favorite non-furry critter?
I am a massive bird fan, and I do love birds, but I don't know why I immediately thought of all three at the same time. Pill bugs, like those tiny little shelled bugs that roll up into a ball, but also armadillos and pangolins. Like the concept of being shelled and rolling into a ball.
They have fur.
You don't have fur.
They have fur.
Armadillos are mammals. Armadillos are mammals. They have fur, but they're not. Pangolins, I don't know. Let's find out. There's no.
Pangolin, well, I think of them as scaly.
They have fur underneath, and if I'm right, their scales are in fact condensed fur.
I'm never afraid of Googling anything. They are actually
mammals. This is
mammals.
why I always give three answers. This is why I give three answers, because pill bugs, I know for sure don't have fur.
Yeah, they don't have fur.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, my zoologist is currently not in the room, so I can't turn to her and be like, do they have fur? Because she put research into her her bestiary Tooth and Claw that has an armadillo-like creature, and she was telling me all about their scales.
Yeah, they are actually scaly skinned mammals, is what it says. I'm going to double check with. Like I said, I'm always about finding out things. I grew up in Texas, so armadillos. I'm about 100% sure that they have some form of fur, but I could be 100% wrong. And it looks like I might be. Hold on, let's see. It means little armored ones in Spanish.
That's so cute.
Placental mammals in the order Cingulata. But I was gonna say I think they're furry underneath their armor.
Yeah, you can see little furs poking out.
So they are just armored on top. They are the most. But yeah, I grew up with because I'm from Texas. We call them roly polies. Roly polies or pill bugs were one of my favorite things just to play with, also too. And so, but I love that you immediately went to like all the armored. Rebels. I would say that
maybe I need a bath. Maybe I'm feeling vulnerable. I just need to take some me time. I wonder if there's somewhere I could get a beard balm just to relax.
You should. If you go to +1exp.com, if you're looking to relax, I would suggest Cha or Intelligence, boost your charisma, boost your int. But maybe wisdom is what you need in your life right now. That's all great aromas. You can find all those at +1exp.com. So, no, I have been super excited about the project. I loved it from the first time. Anna messaged me and just saw that y'all were doing this collaboration because I'm a huge fan of that. I'm a huge fan of both of your individual works, and I can't wait to see what comes of this. I know that there's a lot of collaboration that happens in the UK between folks. Actually, Anna, I know we talked about this a little bit last time, but I would love to, and I may get it wrong. You update me on just kind of some of the stuff that's happening with, is it Rainy Day?
Yep, the Rainy Day Games Collective.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's myself, Chris Bissett of The Wretched, Matt Sanders of The Sealed Library, and Jack Harrison of The Artifact, The Orbital, and so many other things that have decimated Kickstarter's funding. And yeah, so we're currently planning to all host a stall at Dragon Meet in London on December 4th, where we'll be selling all of our games. And we have some stuff planned. We're currently just trying to find time to all sit down and properly collaborate on a project. But if you read Tabletop Gaming Magazine, we have a feature at the back of each issue now where the four of us create something around a theme. So we've done like Fancy Balls and Rituals have been the two that have been out so far. And I think Slime is coming out or just came out.
That's awesome.
Love me some slime.
I love me some slime also too. I love that. Also, I know that there's a bundle right now, I think, over on Itch to help different folks get to Dragon Meet who wouldn't otherwise be able to afford it. So if you are if you want to help support that, I'll see if I can dig up a link in just 1 second and add it to everything. And if you're somebody who, I think is it for marginalized or small creators, is that correct?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
And you're interested in going to Dragon Meet and you're looking for some financial support, I reach out, because I don't know how any of that works, and I'm not going to put it on the spot either. But I do believe they were asking for folks who might be in need. So go check all that out over on Twitter. You can find it. It'll be great. But I'll also find a link somewhere and add it to the description. Oh, we've got both Major Mara joined in and collabs without permission. Joined late but listened back. Love hearing about the guild building travel premise. I love that Collabs was capable of coming in halfway through and catching up. That's very impressive.
Some speed listening.
And so also Bug Animal Nerdery, this content that they showed up for. Also, I think did Collabs review both Apothecaria and Scurry?
Maybe
I know Scurry for sure.
Collabs did a walkthrough of Apothecaria.
Did you not know that?
It's on YouTube. It's got a very charming introduction.
It has a phenomenal
I don't know how I haven't told you this. Sorry.
So,
first of all, sorry, Vi, for not telling Anna. I thought I had, but also, Anna, there's a wonderful, cute review of Apothecaria out there.
I knew Apothecaria had happened because I watched it earlier today. I wasn't sure if Scurry had happened also, but I was pretty sure it had. That's why I was asking. But yeah, it's a great video. Vi does an absolutely phenomenal job. If you're not following Collabs Without Permission, please hop on over and give them a subscribe also too. Phenomenal short reflections on games with just some amazing narrative parts. We always jokingly talk about the fact that I never leave my cave of a basement down here. It's where I do all of my content, whereas Vi journeys out into the wider world to create everything that they do. It's absolutely amazing to watch. Super phenomenal content also too. With that said, Brian, if people want to follow you online, if they want to know more about what you're coming up to, if they want to follow that project that you have coming up, or find out more about Apothecaria as things come out, where can they follow you?
So you can follow me on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook at Dungeons on a Dime. It's on the screen. Thank you very much for that, Tony. If you go to doad.co.uk, that is my web store and Linktree, so linktr.ee/DOAD, then that's all the fun links I've got. So that's the reliable one where you can find the store, you can find the campaign, Apothecaria, live right now. You can find free games that I've written and all sorts of other fun things. And if you want to follow me in real life, just lurk around Edinburgh. I will eventually emerge for like milk and cookies.
Like Santa.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Anna, how about you? Where can people find you online and follow all your great stuff?
People can find me online at blackwellwriter.com, blackwellwriter.itch.io, and patreon.com/Anna Blackwell, because I like to break the molds and not use the same consistent naming.
Awesome. And also, how many Anna Blackwells who are authors are there in the UK? And will y'all be having some sort of Highlander-esque contest at some point in time to see who is the one?
I think we're going to have to, because I originally had my site called blackwellrates.com, which shared a Google space with blackwellrates.tumblr by someone who had some very extreme opinions, who is not related to me in any way.
Every time I go to Google you, I'm like, wait a minute, this does not seem like the Anna Blackwell I know.
No.
I feel like you should just like chop the name up and then shuffle it. So you've got Well Anna Black and then Black Anna Well and
keep on chopping it up and going through. I love it. If you want to help support our channel, you can become a content champion. Go to kofi.com/+1exp. There are links down below if you're over. Actually, if you're watching this anywhere, there's links down below. Would love to have you help us keep all of the free content we do free for small first-time or emerging creators. It's something that we love to be able to do. But we have an amazing editor who we pay for our videos that we produce that are not live streams. We have an amazing graphic designer that we pay. It helps offset those costs specifically and keep the channel operating, which is a huge goal for us this year, is to make sure that I'm not losing money every month on +1 EXP, and we're absolutely incredibly close, but any support you can give us over there is absolutely helpful and tremendously appreciated as well. You can also find all the games and stuff that we do down below. If you're looking for a beard balm scent, you can click down to +1 EXP, pick up our games and other stuff like that also down there. With that said, this has been Prestige Class with Anna and Brian, and until next time, class is dismissed. Bye, everybody.
Bye.